Situated just to the south of Anatolia's western coastline, on a crossroads between east and west, lies the Mediterranean island of Rhodes. Largely because of its excellent strategic position between the Aegean and the Mediterranean seas, and its accessibility to both Europe and the Middle East, the island has been consistently fought over for the majority of its recorded history. Rhodes was first inhabited by Stone Age Neolithic peoples sometime after the last Ice Age, which ended around 12,000 years ago. We know very little about these peoples, as they left very little evidence behind. The first people to make a lasting impression were the Minoans from Crete, who seem to have colonized Rhodes in the 16th century BC, during the Bronze Age. The first major civilization of Europe, the Minoans were the predecessors to the Greeks. They built temples, worshipped mysterious animal deities, including bulls and snakes, and the ancient capital of Knossos is a likely location for the Minotaur's labyrinth of later Greek mythology. After the volcano Thera erupted in around 1400 BC, Minoan civilization collapsed, being subsequently replaced by the Mycenaean Greeks in the 15th century BC. The Mycenaeans are the ancient Greeks who, according to much later writers such as Homer, numbered the legendary heroes Odysseus, Achilles and Hector amongst their ranks, and who fought the Trojan War and searched for the Golden Fleece. Finally, just over 100 years after the late Bronze Age collapse of around 1200 BC, Dorian Greeks came to the island, eventually founding the modern site of Rhodes City, which still exists today and is currently a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Dorian Greeks were one of the four main tribes from the classical period of Greek history and colonized much of the Mediterranean and went on to found Sparta, Corinth, Syracuse, and many other settlements. After a brief invasion by the Persians in the 5th century AD, Rhodes once again asserted its independence and rose steadily in prominence, quickly becoming a world center for learning and culture. During this period, through a combination of skillful diplomacy and by the use of its strong navy, Rhodes managed to retain its autonomy for hundreds of years, whilst empires fought all around her. It was during this period, in 280 BC, that a gigantic bronze statue of the Rhodian sun god Helios was constructed at the entrance of the harbour of Rhodes City. The Colossus of Rhodes, as it became known, stood 33 metres high. That's as tall as the Statue of Liberty, and it was classed as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Colossus, perhaps the best example of the vast power and wealth the city-state once possessed, was sadly lost in an earthquake in 226 BC and never rebuilt. By 200 BC, a new power had arisen on the Mediterranean, a power which Rhodes, nor any of the other Greek city-states, could withstand. After periods of alliance, conflict, and political outmaneuverings from both sides, Rhodes was finally incorporated into the Roman Republic in 164 BC, effectively ending its lengthy period of autonomy. The island remained important, however, and became a provincial capital of the Roman and subsequently the Byzantine Empire, which carried on Rome's legacy. During the long period of decline of the Byzantines over the next centuries, Rhodes changed hands several times, including several periods of rule by Italian opportunists who seized the island. The most important newcomers, however, were the Arabs. After the rise of Islam in the late 600s, Rhodes became integral in the ensuing power struggle which raged between Christianity and Islam for the next 1,000 years. The Crusader period saw large armies of Europeans heading to the Middle East to try and reclaim the holy sites of Christendom. Many of these armies, such as the one commanded by King Richard the Lionheart of England, used Rhodes as a stop-off point. Eventually, in 1309, Rhodes came into the possession of the order of Crusader warriors known as the Knights Hospitaller. They heavily fortified the island and converted it into an ideal of medieval chivalric values. Much of the architecture visible today was constructed during this period, including huge castles and city walls spanning more than 4 kilometers. By the 16th century, a new power had arisen upon the Mediterranean. From its power base in Asia Minor, the Ottoman Empire had grown from its humble roots to encompass much of the Middle East and southern Europe, and now had its gaze set upon Rhodes. The Knights Hospitaller, who numbered no more than 7,500 men, made a valiant last stand at the palace of the Grand Master, but could do little as a huge invasion force, led by the Grand Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, landed on the island in 1522 with an army possibly numbering as many as 200,000 men, equipped with gigantic siege weapons and cannons. The Ottomans held onto the island for the next several centuries, until the wane of their empire in the early 20th century. It subsequently fell under the sway of fascist Italy, Nazi Germany, and finally an independent Greece, supported in its territorial ambitions by Britain and the Allies. Rhodes still bears the hallmarks and visible influences of the vast plethora of varied cultures that have inhabited it throughout its long history. Now a part of Greece, the island remains one of the most important historical sites on Earth.